What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for a discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm your host, Alex Van Aken, and today I'm joined by Blake Hester. Hello, Blake.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Good to be here. I haven't been. When was the last time I was on this show?
I can't even remember.
Last of Us Part 1. That was it.
Wow, that feels forever ago.
The listeners have had it too easy, and now I'm back to antagonize them.
Also joining us, Marcus Stewart. How you doing, Marcus?
Hey, Blake, if it makes you feel better, this is my third show in a row.
That makes me feel worse, actually, because I feel like I'm unloved. The Game Informer doesn't want to present me to our audience.
I want to present. Do you want to come on next week, Blake?
What are we talking about?
I don't know.
No, I'm good. I'll pass.
Okay. All right. Word. And that's why Blake isn't on the show more. Rounding us out, our newest hire, Kyle Hilliard, making his return to Game Informer after many years. Welcome back, Kyle.
That's a callback to my very first appearance on Replay back in 2011. First recorded words of me at Game Informer was bleep profanity.
That's very good. And in Game Informer fashion, we will bleep that as well. But
thank you, Blake. I don't remember the last time you were on the show, but I do remember the last time you were on the Neon Genesis Evangelion podcast that Game Informer seems to host on the side, where you just talked about Neon Genesis for like 25 minutes.
I wish I would. It would be a solo podcast. Just me talking about every episode, not the movies, though they're bad, of Evangelion. It would be our longest project in our 30-year history.
Well, there's the magazine that's been going on for 30 years.
No, like I said, Kyle.
It would outlive the magazine.
Yeah, we'll put out a separate magazine that's just about Neon Genesis.
Right. Yeah, I'd read that.
I think you'd be surprised how much I could say about those episodes. Probably very little, honestly. They're sad. One of the kids masturbates.
This one's confusing. This one doesn't make any sense.
They all make sense if you don't pay attention to 75% of the episode.
The mark of good
So
media.
that's a show I should watch in the background.
No.
While doing work.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm picking up on. Doing my house chores, watching Evangelion.
No.
Okay, got it.
This ain't One Piece, man.
I think it deserves your attention. I think you can just tune out a lot of the proper nouns, which is the case for like most stories. You know,
like I wasn't trying to get you to do an Evangelion podcast. I was trying to make a joke.
I'm thinking I have a pitch for Matt Miller when I get out of this recording about a new podcast. Got ideas for ad integration.
I'll wait for the live-action Netflix adaptation.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you think Timothy Chalamet would play Shinji Ikari?
God.
I mean, that'd be weird. His name is Shinji Ikari. He's not a superhero.
He is in my heart.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. I think I would play Asuka Langley. Thank you.
Right.
I'll stop.
I'm getting this podcast back on the rails. Kyle, how's it feel to be back after so long?
It's weird.
Also, what are you doing? Like, people that might not know yet if they aren't plugged into social media.
Maybe you don't know my history of Game Informer. I worked for Game Informer magazine for 8 years. I was from 2011 to 2019. Did a lot of stuff, and then I was laid off, sadly. But an opportunity came along to return, and I decided to take it. I'm the magazine content director now. Basically, the job Matt Miller had before he took on the editor-in-chief role. That's me now. That's what it says in the masthead now for me. And it has my old picture.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah. Margaret said I could give her a new picture, but I was like, no, it's good. It's a good picture. I look younger there.
Yeah. I have to get my driver's license updated soon, and I'm kind of bummed because I feel like I have a pretty decent driver's license photo.
Show it off.
Do you want Margaret to take your picture for the driver's license? Is that what you're proposing?
That's what. I want my Game Informer color tint and all as my new one with the brick wall. That'll be great.
But yeah, it's very weird to be back. I gave you some amazing background music. I don't know if you have that queued up, but you could have
it's going right now.
It's going right now. Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's exciting. It feels like I'm coming back to like kind of a different publication. because it's very different from when I left. You know, the way you guys handle things is different. There's lots of new people here. I know pretty much everyone. Like Alex, this is kind of our first time really having a discussion. But like Blake and Marcus were interns, you know, so I know just about everybody. And then it's also weird to just like go into the back end of the website and be like, oh yeah, okay. I very quickly was like, I remember how all this works. All right, okay, magazine. Yep. I remember how the paginator works. You know, these are all words that, you know, no one knows what I'm talking about. But it's been cool. It's been exciting. It's weird. It's, you know, it's a weird thing. But I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back. I know a lot of listeners and readers are also super excited. The Discord was when you announced your announcement, people were freaking out. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was kind of like the second coming of Christ, to be fair.
Oh,
you know, it was...
no, we gotta lower that volume. Come on.
It's kind of like the third Jay and Silent Bob movie. It's kind of like when they came back.
Which one was it?
I don't know, Jay and Silent Bob Strike.
It's kind of like Dumb and Dumber 2.
It's not like when Jesus came back. It's like Clerks 3.
Oh, okay. So fans are really into it, but the average critic hates it.
Yeah, and there are people who review every issue of our magazine. There's a little criticism cottage industry around it.
Yeah, it's for the fans now that I'm back.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, for the gamers.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Excited to be working under you on the magazine occasionally when I occasionally write. Thank you for your great edits already.
Yeah, too many already, probably.
No. I like edits.
Good.
Makes me better. But yeah, and excited to hopefully record many GI shows together and you know, maybe bring back cool stunts. I think that'd be cool.
Well, you got to get the name right first if you want me to bring it back.
6 stunts.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
I'm just giving you crap.
I'm the worst.
No, it's fine. It was before your time, dude. It was before your time. It's a different
era.
but
I'm expected to know everything about Game Informer's history.
Yeah.
Before I worked here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know?
Of course. Yeah.
That one replay episode where Dan Reichert did that wacky thing. You know.
I know exactly what you're referencing.
That was
absolutely.
a wacky episode.
That was crazy that he said that and did that.
No, but I really did like 6 stunts. But I could have sworn it was called Cool Stunts for a while.
Maybe that's the reboot. This is how
Cool Stunts.
The reboot no one talks about.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the news this week. We've got a lot of there's been a lot of news going around this week, but we're going to focus on the survival horror kind of corner of the gaming industry this week. Specifically, Konami has announced that they are bringing back Silent Hill 2 as a remake. They've announced a side game called Silent Hill F in collaboration with Annapurna and is it No Code?
Oh no, not that.
No.
That one is Silent Hill Townfall, the Annapurna one.
Oh God, there's even more than I thought.
There's a whole bushel.
Yeah.
God,
they announced 4 Silent Hill games. Yeah, one of which was a remake.
Oh God. Okay. So yeah, Silent Hill Townfall is the Annapurna joint. Silent Hill F is the trailer that started with the girl that was dragging the pipe along, right? And she turned into flowers. Okay, I'm back on track. Silent Hill Ascension, which is seems like it might be a multiplayer thing.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams is involved, but as near as we can tell, his involvement is just sending someone a text message that's like, yeah, this sounds good. Like, go for it.
I'm still not even sure if that's a game because their official description of it was like interactive choice-driven drama, but they didn't use the term game.
Yeah, interactive video streaming experience or something.
Yeah, which I was like, is this like what was the
FMV.
Black Mirror, the choice-driven one?
Oh, right. Yeah, Netflix does a bunch of those.
Yeah, I was like, is it one of those?
It's one of those things in like 3 years we'll be like, oh, you remember that Silent Hill mobile game? And we'll look it up and it'll come out like 2.5 years before that. Like, let's just skip over it, you know?
Well, what'll be is me, Mark, and Alex will be like, what was that? Did anybody play that? And Blake, you're going to be like, it's the best Silent Hill game ever. It's the only good one. That's that.
Thank God for JJ.
I would say they only announced one that looked good at that presentation, and it was not the one JJ Abrams is attached to.
Yeah, so, man, okay. Which of you wants to kind of walk me through, as somebody who, you know, we've talked about on the show before, I am very much becoming more of a fan of horror games, but I steered clear of them for the longest time. I have not played Silent Hill. Why does this news matter besides it's Silent Hill 2. Everybody likes it. Like, why now? Do you have any insight into that? Which one of you is the biggest Silent Hill fan?
Say, Kyle, we did the stream together. You're a big Silent Hill 2 guy.
Yeah, like I've dabbled in all of them. I've actually only beaten 2, but like I've played almost all of them, at least at some capacity. And I mean, it's a couple of things. Is like, you know, there's been so many Silent Hill rumors forever that just became nothing. Kojima was involved with Silent Hills, and then that was PT, and that fell apart, which just felt like the rug being pulled out from under Silent Hill fans. And then, so that's like exciting that we finally have like concrete Silent Hill things. And then 2 is so good. 2 is such a weird psychological different take on horror. It's so like especially at the time, it was so much different from, you know, Resident Evil was its main competitor, which is a game about like scary zombies chasing you through like police stations and stuff. And Silent Hill 2 is like a story about a man coming to grips with the death of his wife. And it's like, it's all sort of becomes this giant metaphor of this town that transforms as he explores it. And it's really unnerving. I played it as recently as like a year or two ago.
Oh, wow.
Because Mike Drucker wrote a boss fight book about it that I read that I enjoyed. And that was like, oh man, I want to revisit Silent Hill 2 now. And it is still very unnerving. Like, it is still a horrifying game because it does such a good job at just letting you sort of slowly explore this foggy town as sounds in the distance just, you don't know what they are, you know? And it's been so hard to play at any like reasonable way. Like, the remake that you can play on PS3 is just awful. It's just like they screwed it all up. The fog, which is like a core element of the game, it's like bad. There's no way to easily, like, even the version that I played kind of recently, I bought Silent Hill 2 for Xbox on eBay, and even playing that on a backwards compatible like 360 was rough. Like, it was having problems, and like I created too many saves, and like I hit a point where I couldn't progress anymore. So there's just been no good way to play Silent Hill 2 in the last like 5 or 10 years. I know people are unsure about Bloober Team. I think it's fair to be unsure about them, but the fact that there's like a new, you know, quote unquote version of Silent Hill 2 coming that I can like recommend to someone to play this, you know, in next year is really exciting.
Yeah, Bloober Team, you know, being attached to it is really interesting. Layers of Fear. They've worked on they've kind of been around for a while, but The Medium, you know, and those games I think have never really reviewed very well. You know, it's kind of like average, you know, some below average. And
interesting ideas, not amazing execution.
Yeah.
I know I don't know the ending of The Medium, but I hear it's bad.
I have watched it because I heard it was bad,
okay.
and I wanted to know, and it was pretty bad.
I think that the issue with Bloober and Silent Hill 2 specifically is less that their games are kind of middling, and it's more the way they fumble themes that require light touches, or graceful touches is, I guess, like a better way to put it. And like Silent Hill 2 is obviously dealing with trauma in some very dark ways, and deals with some topics that still games have not really gone through. There's a Pyramid Head scene that is very infamous that, you know, I think that the fear is less like their shooting might be bad or something, and it's more like this team does not seem emotionally equipped or mature enough to handle these themes, and that immediately sucked the air out of my sails of being interested in. It's like, I just don't know if they're the right studio.
And it wonders like what the extent of this remake is, because like on one hand, it's like, well, maybe this will be fine because they're working with someone else's template, so whatever faults they have will be mitigated. And that's under the assumption that this is a more like just straight on faithful remake. It just looks better. But if they're doing maybe the Resident Evil remake approach of like we're actually going to tweak some things about the story, it's not just going to be the same thing, then that starts to get like, you know, maybe a little unsettling of like, oh, what are they going to muck this up? And, you know, I've never played, I'm with Alex. I love horror games, but the most Silent Hill I've ever played is PT. I was a Resident Evil kid growing up, and for whatever reason, I always wanted to go to Silent Hill, but just never got around to it. So this is exciting to me because it's like Kai was saying, like it's so hard to revisit those, like the good ones, I guess. But yeah, that's my only hang up too. It's like, okay, Bloober Team, hopefully like maybe Konami keeps them on a short leash and just says, just make this look and play better, but other than that, leave everything else alone.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, we've seen like more freedoms taken with remakes as of late in recent years, especially in like survival horror. Like, so it'll be interesting how, if it's very, very similar, like a 1-to-1, or if they're like trying to go in and fundamentally change any systems or add new things that weren't there previously. I don't know.
You know what I think? I think Konami accidentally got Bloober Team confused with Blue Point when they were like, we need a good remake studio.
Yeah. They typed in BL and autocorrect.
Yeah, they're like, it's Bloober, right? The blue something. And then by the time like they realized their error, Bloober Team was already too deep. So they're like, oh wait, these are the guys that made the media. Oh crap. Oh,
now I'm bummed.
We wanted the Shadow of Colossus and Demon Souls guys.
I know, I'm now bummed that it's not Blue Point. That would have been
that would have been
exciting.
great.
Oh man.
And it's even a PlayStation exclusive, so that like lines up.
Yeah. Makes you wonder.
So up next, Silent Hill Townfall is the new game from developer No Code. They made Observation, which I believe is that like you're on a space station, right? And you're kind of playing as like the security AI system. And then Stories Untold, which I don't know much about, but very little offered in terms of like what this game is. Kind of the cinematic trailer kind of zoomed in on like a radio.
I don't think it's going to be a traditional Silent Hill game, because both of their previous games are very like focused on perspective and looking at things through cameras, and like Stories Untold is about, if I'm correct, like playing, like you play as a person playing a game on a computer or something like that. So I think whatever this is, it's going to be unique. I don't think it's going to be like a third person perspective, walking around a town. I think it's going to be something different.
Which I mean, honestly, feels like it could be the gateway for me. This kind of game, I think like that is a cool angle, like something that's not what I would expect from a Silent Hill game, and that might be like the way for me to get into the lore a little bit. Or I don't know if they're going to be exploring side stories or if it's totally new or what, but like kind of getting in that world in like a seemingly a less abrasive way, in terms of like, I don't have Pyramid Head likely chasing me down or whatever. Like there's probably not jump scares. Maybe there are, I don't know. Like it just seems like it's a little more approachable for somebody who is a little more hesitant to get into like horror games. But maybe I can kind of like learn more about like the series itself. I don't know. But anybody else have thoughts on Townfall?
I need to see more of it. I'm only excited because of the developer. Like, I didn't play Stories Untold, but I really liked Observation, right? I always get Observation and Observer.
And Observer, yeah.
The one Bloober Team game that's actually pretty all right. But yeah, Observation, I'm a really big fan of that game. So like that alone makes me want this on my radar. And Annapurna. Like, Annapurna has a pretty good track record. They've been on a bit of a roll lately with the stuff that they've chosen to publish. So I just wonder if they do the Annapurna like Hollywood magic of like, is there going to be like a famous person involved in this? Is Daisy Ridley going to be Pyramid Head? I don't know. Willem Dafoe.
God. Silent Hill F. Blake, is this the one that you're excited about?
What's up? Yeah, this one. I mean, like, I don't know what this is. It just had a great trailer. And you know what? That's all that counts. This honestly, I don't know why. I don't mean to be a party pooper. A lot of this stream did very little for me, and this trailer, for whatever reason, just like completely connected with me. A lot of themes and visuals that I feel very strongly about. Avid J-horror fan, as they like to call it. This had some callbacks to that. The Triptychophobia I thought was pretty interesting. It was just a cool trailer all around, set in 1960s Japan, so it's actually like expanding the Silent Hill cinematic universe, I guess, because all of those games are set in this like fictional small American town. This one is very much rooted in Japan. I looked up the developer. They did the RE-verse game and have worked on like HD collections, so I hope it's not that.
Did they work on the Silent Hill HD collection?
No.
Okay.
I hope it's not that. I would like to see this as like the next tentpole Silent Hill game.
That's what it seems like it is. Or
well, I mean, maybe, but we don't.
That was
know.
my impression of it.
Yeah,
I mean, because
sure.
it's like Silent Hill 2 remake, these two interesting side projects, and then Silent Hill F to close out the show is like, this is the new Silent Hill. We would have called it Silent Hill 6
5.
or whatever if we had kept track of the number
Yeah.
methodology we've been using.
I think it just has like a very strong trailer.
Yeah,
the
it's
rest
cool.
of the rest of the trailers just kind of were like Silent Hill stuff, and that's cool. I think Silent Hill's rad, but this one had its own like visual language, its own like own themes it was dealing with. It just really spoke to me. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean the Japan setting is really interesting because that's
Yeah.
like, it's always been in America, which is kind of a weird element of its charm. Is like Japan looking at a small town America and sort of figuring out what that means. So I like the idea of it going to Japan. I think it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, you know, as somebody who traveled to Japan recently, I do have to say, you know,
We went to Japan recently too, Alex.
it's a charming place, man. You know, like it's Japan's cool. As somebody who has traveled there recently,
Yeah, people turn into flowers.
yeah,
Alex, if I may interject to talk about anything else.
yeah.
Hi, Blake Hester. I also traveled to Japan recently.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I want to talk about this because I've been thinking about it. It has nothing to do with us traveling to Japan recently. Why is it weird to you all that Konami is going so hard on Silent Hill as a multimedia brand right now? Silent Hill's great. That's awesome. But Konami is like infamously not much of a game developer or publisher anymore, which I've always read as makes sense when you travel to Japan, as we have recently.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
You'll notice Konami owns like fitness centers and makes refrigerators and all these things that ostensibly make them a lot of money. And so I've always been like, yeah, it makes sense that they ditched Metal Gear Solid. Like, it's a great series, but they were also these vanity projects that don't sell as much as Pro Evolution Soccer or Yu-Gi-Oh! And so Konami, which has always been kind of their weird avant-garde thing they have, them pushing so hard, like, this is it, y'all. Movies, games, experiences is very, very strange to me. I do not run a billion-dollar Japanese company, but if I did, I'm not sure I would hedge my bet on Silent Hill. Like, to me, it'd be like, all right, here's the remake, whatever. And that would be it.
I think it makes sense when you look at Capcom and go, wow, those guys are having a good old time with Resident Evil right now. Look at all the money that they are printing with the remakes and also all the multimedia stuff of like the Netflix show and the new movies. And it's like, you know, we have
The Netflix show that they canceled after one.
Marcus,
well, that's besides the point.
Marcus,
but...
I've thought about that, but even that argument is weird to me because Silent Hill has never been a billion-dollar franchise and Resident Evil always has. Like, it's just...
Well... It's always been Resident Evil's main... well, not always. Always is not true. But certainly early on, they were hand in hand. Konami had Silent Hill, Capcom had Resident Evil. And I think you made great points, Blake. Like, it is weird, but my assumption is there's passionate people about Silent Hill within Konami, which is exciting. And they looked at Resident Evil's success lately.
Yeah.
I think it's like those two things.
It's just like, it's one of those things where I'm excited it's happening, but the more I think about it, I'm like, it's kind of weird it's happening, like, to this degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, 4 games, a movie we haven't even touched on.
Yeah.
What is this, Community?
I think it's more interesting or weirder that they're doing it in this shotgun blast instead of like doing it one at a time to kind of test the water. So like, let's just do Silent Hill 2 remake and see if the interest is there, and then we'll greenlight these other 3 things that we want to do. But for them to have the confidence to be like, nope, they're all coming, plus a new movie. Surprise.
We saw your tweets.
We didn't talk about that movie. I'm big excited for that. As a vocal fan of video game movies and the original Silent Hill, not the sequel, that we're not going to talk about that. The original Silent Hill.
Oh, that's good, because they didn't either.
Yeah. The first Silent Hill movie is in the upper echelon of video game movies. Not the best. That's Resident Evil Extinction.
I'll defend that with you.
But
yeah.
I'm excited.
I have a very distinct memory of watching the original Silent Hill movie in theaters and going in very pessimistic, like, video game movie, right? This is going to be terrible. And I'm kind of getting into it and being like, oh, this is pretty good. And I remember leaning over to my friend and being like, hey, now all they need is a bit where she has to check the map every 3 steps to make sure she's going the right direction, and like, you know, elbowing my friend. And then they had a scene where she runs street corner to street corner and checks every map on the street corner. And I was like, you know what? I like this. This is actually pretty cool.
One of my favorite movie kills is in Silent Hill. It's one of the rawest things I think ever put to screen. Like, they truly went for it, and I'm surprised Konami let them get away with it. Pyramid Head does some wild stuff in that. Great movie. I'm excited for that. Let's talk. Can we talk about that for another hour?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
I mean, they did spend a lot of time in that stream talking about that movie.
And it was awesome. It's like, what they're pitching it. It seems to be a movie that does not exist at all, beyond some like storyboards and a director and producer.
Yeah, the whole thing was like a talking head.
Yeah, but like they're pitching it as a very faithful adaptation of Silent Hill 2, which is a little weird considering there's a remake also coming up, but that's beside the point. Which I think's cool because the first one was like a pretty faithful adaptation of 1, and then the sequel to that's like a weird adaptation of 3. But I think
a sequel. What are you talking about?
Look, it exists. It exists. Okay. But I don't know. I'm just excited to check it out. I love movies. I'm a fan of the cinema. Reagan is too. You hear?
Word. Well, let's get into topic of the week. We're going to talk about our Bayonetta 3 review. It was written by Blake Hester, and of course, the cover story was written by Marcus Stewart here. So we've got two of the folks who have been handling that beat for us here at Game Informer. Blake, how is Bayonetta 3? How are you liking it?
I beat it.
Yeah? Nice.
I like it.
That's my review. I beat it.
I beat the game, everyone. It's great. It's like 75% of the time it's the best Bayonetta game. Then there's another 25% we can get into where it's not good. But man, it rocks. It's like, as a longtime fan of that big tall lady, I am smitten with this game. I think it's awesome. It changes the core formula in some key ways that help set it apart in like mechanically interesting ways. The one being, like, if you play Bayonetta 1 and 2, you'll know she can call forth infernal demons, but they're always like kept to the end of boss fights and cutscenes with like quick time events. They've just turned that into an entire mechanic.
That's the Demon Masquerade, right? Or Demon Slave.
Demon Slave. Yeah. Where you can like bring forth any number of them. I don't know. I'm like held under embargo of talking about some. I'll tell you anytime you can equip 4, but believe it or not, there's more than 4. Yeah. Like, and you can just be calling them in to attack alongside you. You can do combos with them. What I did with them, which was like kind of not how you're supposed to use them, was almost only as finishers of combos. So I would do like an entire string of Bayonetta's combos, you know, switching my weapons and everything. And then I would call forth that big dinosaur she has. And because the damage they do is ridiculous, and use that as my combo finisher. And it just felt so good. And it felt like it kind of set it apart from the other games. Like, this is, you know, when you play Bayonetta 1, the big thing was witch time. It's like, we got witch time now. And in Bayonetta 2, it's like, hey, it's more Bayonetta. It just feels the same. Bayonetta 3, like, did just enough different that it's like, it's that hot stuff right here. This is that hot stuff. And you go on this, like, globe-trotting adventure. It is out of control in the way the best Platinum games are. Just, like, it's obnoxious. Their games are obnoxious, and I think that's the draw of a lot of their games, is they're just goofy and over the top and kind of screaming at you the whole time. And Bayonetta, like, the fact that Bayonetta pulls that off for, like, 13 hours almost nonstop is like pretty awesome. And it's getting to the point where like Bayonetta's, you know, surfing on falling buildings, and there are massive kaiju battles and gods fighting in the sky. Like, it's absurd.
There's like a full-on like Doctor Strange Mirrorverse sequence, like it's like copy paste from those movies.
Like, it's so cool. Marcus, have you had a chance to play the full game?
I'm over halfway through it.
Oh, okay.
So
So Blake's review is he's beaten it, and Marcus's review is
I'm halfway.
I haven't beaten it.
Yeah,
I beat half of it. What do you think of it? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we haven't. I'm loving it so far. I agree with what you said about the combat. I think the combat, Bayonetta specifically, is phenomenal. I think the Demon Masquerade stuff is great, like having the different weapons change her combat style. Like, I'm in love. So we can talk about the first 3 demons that you get, which we've talked about before, which were Madama Butterfly, Gamora, and the Spider Phantasma, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
P.
Nailed it.
Master P is what I call. I'm in love with the Spider's weapon, which fans, you've seen as the yo-yo kind of thing. That thing is so much fun. Like, that has become my primary weapon, and then my sub-weapon, I kind of cycle out with the other ones, depending on the situation or my mood. But yeah, that thing is like, It reminds me a lot of Kratos's Blades of Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
A bit mechanically, of like you could throw it out and yank people towards you or go to them. You can use it as like a buzzsaw where you just throw it out and it's just like slicing through dudes and you can just swing it around. It's great for keeping people at a distance.
Specifically, Marcus, I thought the same thing, but old Blades of Chaos from the trilogy,
Yeah,
which
that's
are
what I
like
meant,
faster. Yeah.
Yeah, classic God of War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds awesome.
So like that, like I think I think all the weapons have been great. I know in your review, Blake, that you said you kind of stuck with the same ones, just more out of just general complacency. I've been switching pretty often, and I've been happy with all of them. I think they all bring a very specific flavor.
Yeah.
But they all they feel distinct, and the skill trees that they all have. Like I was excited to unlock all of them to make them all better. Like I'm actually feel like encouraged to want to master all of them, or at least get good enough with each one that I can switch to anyone and feel like, okay, I'm not lost. I know what to do with this weird thing that I'm using.
I think to Marcus's point, like the game is nonstop variety from like weapons to summons to the levels. Like it's constantly throwing new things at you. And like I think that's kind of an issue sometimes with Platinum's games is they can start to feel very samey. Like I love Metal Gear Rising, but like a lot of that game is just gray corridors. And it feels great, but like Bayonetta, like visually and mechanically is always throwing something new at you. And that helps a lot when dealing with like that intense of gameplay to constantly have something new to look forward to and something new to do. I think like helps a lot in this case. And like they do it for the most part very well. Even the set pieces that maybe don't feel great always at least look book wild, that I'm like, I'm at least enjoying looking at this thing, even if it's not like as fun as the last one.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned corridors, and there really isn't any in this game. Because I mean, if you play the first two, especially the first one, it's a lot of running down hallways and getting into fights. The level design has expanded so much where like every area is pretty much like a giant open hub, because there's so many more secrets now to find. Like there's a lot to do outside of just getting into fights. Like if you want to, there's like combat challenges, there's like various types of like platforming puzzles that I enjoyed. Blake, I don't know what your thoughts on them are.
They're fun.
But I've spent a lot of time in levels just like I'm not leaving until I get every single thing in here. I want to get all the familiars. I'm going to chase this stupid cat around until I get it.
There's not a map, right? It just like tells you what's missing, like how many are available to collect, or
not a map, but it tells you the achievements, because it has in-game achievements, which Bayonetta 2 had as well. If you hover over like the chapter. But I mean, no, they do keep track of like the familiars and stuff, and there are rewards for getting all that stuff. If you get all the familiars, you open like a bonus kind of like special level that you can select on the screen. You'll get more of the seeds, which interestingly enough, I want to point this out. In my cover story, they were called embryos, and now they're called seeds. So I was like, I guess that was like a placeholder, or did they change that at the last minute?
That's weird, yeah, especially considering what they look like.
They look like embryos.
Did the guy ever say embryos in like the voiceover track, the barkeeper or whatever?
No, not at least not in the build that I played for the cover.
Huh.
But that's what the Nintendo rep told me, and then reiterated when I asked them to clarify for sure. So when I saw it in the game, it's like, that changed quick.
Marcus, I have a question for you. Alex, Kyle, I don't know if you knew, we've recently traveled to Japan. Did you notice the Japan level begins at Shinagawa Station, which was our home station when we were there?
That was my home station.
There you go. Did you notice that, Marcus?
Of course I did. The only thing missing was like all the weird Tommy Lee Jones ads.
If you look out the window, you can see the.
Okay, he's in the game. I'm glad they got him in there.
No, I was saying something else, but yeah, he's maybe back there somewhere. If you look back there, it tells you.
Does Bayonetta have a JR pass?
No, she uses Passmo.
Perfect.
Because she's not a resident of Japan; she's a visitor.
Oh, nice.
We've traveled to Japan, listeners.
Wow.
We're traveled men around the world and then some.
Listen, I
have something else to talk about.
What's up?
Sometimes you don't play as Bayonetta in this game, and I think it sucks.
Yeah, Viola.
Viola.
I'm gonna say it. I don't like her at all. I know, like other reviewers
she has
seem
the big
to
cat, though, right?
Yeah, sure, that's great. Other reviewers seem to have connected with her more, and that's awesome. But like, she did nothing for me mechanically or definitely not story wise. And then like, I don't know, Marcus, maybe you liked it more, but her gameplay wise, she's parry focused, but her parry window is like not forgiving at all. And if you're not a pro gamer, like I'm not, that can feel like bashing your head against a wall. Like, trying to get the hang of her. Once I finally did, it was a little more interesting, but she never had the like fluidity of motion that Bayonetta does in general. So even when I finally learned her mechanics and felt comfortable using it, it never felt as fun. Like, it was too stark a contrast for me compared to Bayonetta. And then Jean also has levels, which are just like 2D side scrollers, and they suck. They're not even worth talking about. And luckily they're like a minute long at a time. They're just boring. But the Viola stuff rubbed me the wrong way for sure.
Is Viola, would she get along with Edge, Marcus, from Mario Rabbids?
Oh,
would they be good friends?
Yeah, it's funny that we got two of those like relatively the same kind of characters. Though Edge is like more serious. Like, Viola looks like she might be like serious, but she's actually like a giant goofball and like screw up. Because like the idea is that she's not she's like an Umbra witch in training, so she's not she doesn't have a full grasp of her abilities, which is why in gameplay she has like significantly less abilities than Bayonetta. And I might like her a little bit more than you, Blake. Like, I don't outright hate her, but I do, because she plays so much, not even just differently, but she's so stripped down compared to Bayonetta. I find myself, the further I get into the game, I'm looking forward less and less to going back to Viola, because as Bayonetta gets more cool stuff, you're like, oh, I'm going to lose all of that because I got to play this like Viola chapter for an hour. Like, I don't have a cool spider yo-yo thing anymore. So let's just get through this. And it's the parry stuff. Yeah, it's tougher for sure. Sometimes it doesn't feel as well tuned as the witch time. Because yeah, there's times where it's like, I feel like I nailed that, and then I get hit, and then the positioning feels off, where it's like, you can't, like with witch time, it's a lot more forgiving because you can kind of just flip around kind of aimlessly and you'll probably dodge everything. Like, there is skill involved, but you can just hit that dodge button and you'll be okay. Viola, you really can't do that. Like, you can just block and not parry if you want, but you do have to be facing, the direction of whatever's hitting you. But it just doesn't feel quite as good, and it's just not as satisfying. And her, like, as you upgrade her, she gets a little bit better. And I don't think she's like bad necessarily. She's just less fun. And I think exploration is where I get the most annoyed with her, because Bayonetta Demon Masquerade also gives her like cool exploration abilities based on the demon of like, oh, I'm the spider, I can crawl up walls now and swing, or I'm Madama Butterfly, I can just jump around and float and fly around. That's great. Viola just has like a double jump and like a little grappling hook, and that's like it. So it just makes exploration just more plain. You're like, okay, well, I guess this is all I have to work with. And in some way that can make the puzzles maybe a little bit more interesting, because you're like, okay, I only have these tools to play with. So, I guess I have everything I need to figure out how to get to this like collectible up here. But yeah, it's just not as fun. And I get that was the point. When I asked Platinum about it, they're like, oh, we wanted there to be a nice contrast between the characters to kind of reinforce how good Bayonetta is. But I think it might have backfired a bit of like, oh no, this is maybe reinforcing too much how much Bayonetta, like, it just makes me so much more happier when I get back to her. And it's like, okay, now the real fun is back. So yeah, I think, and like story-wise, character-wise, she doesn't bug me as much. She's like, whatever. I think she has her moments where she's kind of a little bit endearing, but I can do without her too. I don't think I need her. As for the Jean stuff, real quick, again, I don't think I hate it as much. It's like a C-level Metroid, like Metroid Metal Gear thing, that it's like, it's competent and that it like, this is a functional thing, but even more so Viola is like, this game really does not need this. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think people, as much as, because Jean's very popular too, it's like, it'd be better if you just replaced the Viola segments with Jean and just made her a full-fledged second character. And
Viola wasn't in the game. Can I ask y'all a question? Why is the least cool thing in the world a game developer's idea of someone's that's cool? every time there's a cool character in a game, they're always the lamest dude possible, and Viola is so lame looking.
Well, I mean, but they make her lame. Like, they're not trying to make her cool at all. Like,
No. Her appearance, like, her appearance is very much like she's the cool one. It's like she looks like
she just likes
she works at
going to Hot
Spencer's
Topic.
Gifts. Like,
she likes that aesthetic, but it is not a reflection of her personality outside of like, oh, she has a little bit of a temper, but she is a klutz. Like, she is a giant klutz. But like, thankfully, that her stuff and John's stuff, like, you're not spending nearly as much time with them as you are Bayonetta. So, you know, it can be annoying, but you're not torn away from the good stuff for very long. So
yeah, I like that. All aside, like, I want to reiterate, as a like huge Bayo fan, Bayo 1, you know, long held best in the series. Bayo 2, fine. Bayo 3, when you're playing as Bayonetta, I think it is the best Bayonetta game. Like, which feels awesome to say.
And real quick, I think it's worth pointing out that action-wise, the game runs very well on Switch, at least for me. You know, FPS, all that good stuff. Like, when you're in combat, performance, fantastic. Everything else definitely is where the Switch shows its age. There's a lot of environmental pop-up when you're just kind of running around of, like, trees phasing in 5 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, the environments is where the Switch really starts to be like, oh, this is really long in the tooth now.
I don't know if I encountered
But when
that.
it's important, it goes pretty well.
Yeah, like the important thing about Bayonetta is the action, and on that front,
yeah,
runs fine. So if anyone's worried about that, at least they nailed it on that front.
Bayonetta, she's back, baby. Feels good.
Awesome. Well, what did you score Bayonetta 3, Blake?
8.25.
Nice. If you want to go and read the review, head over to GameInformer.com. Is it going to be in the magazine, this upcoming magazine issue?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's cut down a lot, though. So what I'm going to tell you to do is read it online, then reread it again in the magazine.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Find
Get
out
both.
what Blake cut for the magazine.
Yeah, you'll find out the important parts if you read the magazine.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's get into the playlist. We're going to be talking about God of War Ragnarök. Kyle's been playing. Well, actually, everybody but me has been playing that. And then Marvel Snap is the one video game I have played.
That's probably as good as God of War.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they've got Odin's in the game. So
there you go.
I've got
They both have
Odin's
Thor. Yeah, there's Thors in both of those games.
I haven't found that card yet, but
Oh.
yeah, I have an Odin deck. My deck has Odin, but we'll get to that. Tell us about God of War Ragnarok, Kyle. How you liking it?
Yeah, so we can talk about the first 5 hours, and I won't spoil anything, because, you know, the game's not out yet. It's exciting. It's very story focused, right? God of War has always been very story focused. But yeah, I mean, so far so good, right? I mean, it's an extension of the 2018 version, which was a fantastic game. It picks up story-wise like almost exactly where that game left off in an exciting way. Combat feels great. You start with more weapons. There's even already in just the first 5 hours, there's, I would say, like a larger variety of enemy types and like mini bosses and stuff like that, which is really cool. I mean, it's just so far so good. Like, so far it's what I wanted from the God of War, from you know, the sequel to the 2018 game.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm talking in vague terms, but I've really been digging it so far. You know, it's not surprising in some ways, because they, you know, are sort of iterating on what worked so well about that last game. And then, you know, in some ways it is surprising. Like the one that I think I even said in my sort of preview that I wrote for the site is like, I'm finding this one funnier. Like, it's the dialogue, there's like, and they're not jokes, right? There's not like punchlines necessarily. It's just that Kratos is just like the best straight man in the world, like in terms of just reacting to what people are saying around him. It's just, I'm really finding myself laughing a lot, which surprised me. I did not expect God of War, you know, Ragnarok to be one of the funniest games I've played in a while.
I do have a question just about like the feeling that the second game gives you. Like, I felt like one of the things I really liked about God of War 2018 was I was like a casual, like I knew some Norse mythology, but like I really felt like that game did such a good job about like having like moments where that world is revealed to me in ways that were unexpected. You know, for instance, like the the turtle tree thing, like when you're the first few hours of the game. Like I remember that being like one of the moments where I was like, oh my god, like there's so much like waiting for me in this world potentially, and like this is just like such a cool display of like lore and you know, world building. Do you find that after traveling to all the realms in the first game, ostensibly doing the same thing in the first few hours of Ragnarok, do you still find those moments are happening for you where you're kind of like just kind of taken aback, like, oh, like I wasn't expecting this? Or is it kind of just like, okay, I know kind of what's in store for me, let's get to it?
Well, you are in the same locations in the first 5 hours, the opening hours. But that being said, like there is still plenty to be surprised about and things that come up that sort of offer that same level of awe from the previous game, I think, for sure. I mean, and you do pretty quickly travel to new areas and stuff like that, and you see things that you never saw in the first game. But I also like that it's totally, I mean, and that's also in, you know, thanks in part to like the no cut camera from the first game, is like it has such a like interesting sense of place, like moving from one location to another despite climate change that happens over the course of that journey. Like it feels like you are in one sort of large location. So yeah, like those kind of moments, Alex, like you're talking about, like the turtle in the first game, like even in the early parts of the game, like some of that stuff, I'm already being like, whoa, I got to take a screenshot and make sure that I'm not sharing it publicly. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I expected that based on that sick trailer we got a few weeks ago, but I guess you just never know how that actually plays out.
It's a boring sentiment, but if you liked the 2018 God of War, based on my early impressions of this one, and we'll see what Marcus and Blake think, like I think you're gonna like this one too. You know?
Yeah, Marcus, how are you liking it?
Yeah, I'm only a couple hours in, so I've played the least out of the three of us, but yeah, I mean, I love it so far. I'm a big God of War fan, and I really did love the 2018 game. That was my number 2 of the year, in my top 10. You know, yeah, a lot of it is the same stuff of like, yeah, okay, this plays as I remember. Maybe there's some like light refinements here. I don't know if I've noticed all of them, but you know, I think it's, without specifying, I think it starts very hot. And I think
in God of War tradition, right? Like
yeah,
it starts very strong.
Yeah, which I'm glad that they kept that going. And I think that within the first like hour, there's a lot of really cool just like intrigue in terms of the setup. I think the getting to see Kratos and Atreus is kind of like how that relationship has evolved since the last game has been maybe the most fascinating to me. Like Kratos as a character has been kind of the joy for me, because you're like, okay, he's not the same guy. I mean, he's the same guy, but he has grown without specifying things in some ways that I'm enjoying
Big head
so
mode
far.
Is what you're saying.
Yes, you hit the code at the beginning, and in ways that are surprising. Of like, man, I would have never thought playing the Greek God of War that we would ever see this side of Kratos, but that's kind of what we're getting now, and I guess I like it. You know, it's almost a reminder of like, man, we've come a long ways from when he was just angry guy, and that was kind of his whole personality. But I think they've done a good job of like,
now he's angry dad guy.
Yeah, but like even like there's so much more to him now, having come off of what happened in the 2018 game, that I'm enjoying that a lot, and I'm excited to see how that, you know, he develops, as well as Atreus. Also, Atreus's voice, man, that kid's puberty hit hard. Like it threw me off. Like I knew that going in, but the first time he speaks, you're like, "Oh yeah, you're older now, aren't you?" Like the real life actor.
Oh really? Yeah.
Because he's like what, 14 now? I forgot how old he was.
He's way older than that.
Is he like late teens?
I think he's like 38.
Wait. You mean the actor or Atreus?
The actor.
He's like 16, 17, maybe 18.
Okay.
Like he's like driving. He's in a car.
Yeah, he was driving to the processions.
Spoilers for God of War. He's in a car.
It's the Flintstones car that they just run around in together.
That's the next trilogy, Flintstones.
They're going backwards. Okay, but yeah, I'm pumped to play more. I think it plays great. It looks great. There's some cool stuff that happens even within the opening hours, and yeah,
awesome. Blake, you were somebody who wasn't as big of a fan of the first game,
to say the least.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that you are liking this.
Yeah, I think Kyle's got a point. If you like God of War 2018, you're going to like this game. But I also think if you didn't like God of War 2018, you might have a good chance of liking this one, which is pretty cool to see. I don't think, maybe I shouldn't say who, but a few of friends of mine that don't work at Game Informer who also don't like 2018 are playing it, and all three of us are like, hey, wait a second, this game is pretty cool. I no need to belabor the points. I agree with everything they're saying. I just I think the game starts so well, like so well, and like the opening hour or two hit a fever pitch that is just so strong. It loses me a bit after that when it starts to fall into the actual like gameplay rhythm, and you'll just have to wait and see if it ever got me back. I don't think I can talk about anything after that, but like early impressions are like, yeah, this game is like, I think the writing is substantially better. I think the writing is like fairly consistently strong, and also multifaceted. Like God of War 2018 was kind of just wallowing in its own seriousness, partly to a degree I don't think it ever deserved, and just like dropping more levity in this script like does a lot in bringing this world to life and bringing these characters to life and making them like very interesting people and making their drama more interesting by like fleshing out the other sides of them in ways I really, really appreciate. I think that's like my main takeaway so far, without spoiling certain gameplay things, is like the writing has been like striking for me and like significantly more engaging, and one of the things I'm most interested in this game thus far.
I think it benefits because it's a sequel. A lot of the really fun characters of the first game are just kind of here from the start. You don't have to wait to meet them like you did in that first game. So like all those fun interactions are like, oh, they're just here right at the jump. So yeah, that makes it a lot more, I guess, enjoyable from the get-go.
Yeah, I will say, not to like sound like too much of a Debbie Downer, I had really high hopes from this based on that last trailer. That last trailer banged so hard, and I mainly just mean where they shoot the eclipse out of the sky. That was so cool. I gotta play this game just for that. But first 5 hours, for the most part, 70% of the time, it was working for me really, really well. Especially that opening couple hours. Without saying what exactly happens, like it was just, let's go.
You know what's weird? I want to ask if you guys feel the same way, but because this game uses the same sort of like one shot camera thing that they whatever you want, a technique that the first game has.
The Dead Space 2 camera.
That's right. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle.
But here's the thing: like I never noticed that in Dead Space 2, and I only knew for God of War because they wouldn't shut up about it. But even then, I remember playing it and going like, I mean it's fine, but it's not really adding much for me. I feel like for this game, it's doing a lot more for me, and I don't know why. I don't know if maybe they're just I don't know if they're actually shooting things better, or maybe more interesting things are happening. But there's something about like this game where I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I love that this is what they're doing. Where I was kind of like, I could take it or leave it in the first game.
Marcus, I think about this a lot. I think like, especially in action sequences, like that is such a good call. Like action set cutscenes, obviously the set pieces are going to be in one take because they're tech gameplay-ish, but like the action cutscenes being in one take I think are more engaging. They do a lot of cool framing things with Mimir, who's always on your back. They do some fun things to get him to be in frame. By and large, I think it does nothing, and a lot of shots could be more visually interesting with cuts, but I do think, to your point, it is used better. But I agree less that it's like across the board more noticeable for me. There's just a lot of times where I'm like, this is like a very boring way for these characters to be moving through the scene. And if you just like had a camera cut, it would be much more watchable for me.
Yeah, maybe it's because the stakes are a little bit higher, but I've noticed that I liked it a lot, even for the quieter moments of like, oh, it really does feel like I'm in the room for this conversation.
Yeah.
So like I'm tensing up in a way, because like what they're talking about is like really serious, and it's like it feels like I'm involved in this somehow.
Well, the thing for me that makes it work so well, like even in the first game, I loved it. Like when I initially, it was like, well, that seems weird. I don't know if that's necessarily like helping, right? I don't know if it's really improving the game, but in the first game and then in the early impressions of this one, like, I actually really love it for just the sense of time that it gives you. Like, I love how it just feels like this is the worst couple days of Kratos' life, or in the first game, it's like it just happened over the course of a day, and it truly feels that way when the camera is just always there. It's just always on. You never leave their side, and that helps with geography and moving through the world, and also just like I said, like sort of that, the movie Die Hard effect of like, this is just one really rough day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I literally started installing it while you guys were talking, so.
Also, I think Batman.
You weren't gonna play it until we talked about how much we liked it so far.
Gonna, bargain bin. Who knows?
I know you've been playing a lot of Marvel Snap. You got to prioritize.
Hold on, wasn't Batman Arkham Knight all in one shot as well?
Ooh.
Maybe
It just has that behind the shoulder view for like a lot of the like.
I think
either
it's all in one shot.
or the sort of cinematic scenes, but I think like.
I think it is.
I think
it might be.
I think it is.
I think for the cutscenes, yeah, you might. I feel like there were because there's some weird stuff that happens that are totally like shots, right? Like, isn't there like stuff with like Scarecrow, like his weird stuff, or the Joker stuff? Isn't that like different shots?
That is Arkham Knight. That is interesting because I do remember a lot of the cutscenes, sort of like when he's like, moving things, like the camera following around. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dead Space 2 is just the one that like I sort of stood out to me initially, just because even the UI and exploring your inventory is done without cutting the camera. I think there's one cut in Dead Space 2.
There's a cut where it looks like they had to chop a level out of the game, and that's like the only one.
Yeah, But again, it's just, hey, you know what? It was the worst day of Isaac's life, right? And then the sequel is the second worst day of Isaac's life. And I love that sort of experience, especially in a video game.
Can't wait for the
so personal.
Dead Space remake where it's actually the best day of his life.
That's right. That's right.
It's his wedding day,
Were you gonna say something else, Blake, or are you?
No.
I think he's looking up Batman.
They showed Resident Evil 4 remake.
Okay. Side note, that looks really good.
I mean, we should maybe talk about it, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I want to talk about Marvel Snap.
Do we have to snap when you say it, like the Addams Family?
Or the
Yeah, it's kinda
Nintendo
like
Switch,
the Switch.
commercials.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So Marvel Snap, is anybody else here playing it?
I have not yet, but I'm being tempted more and more the more I hear about it, because I'm hearing a lot of positive buzz.
Kyle, are you? I know Blake isn't.
No,
do you know that?
zero interest. Yeah.
How do you know that?
Even though I just left my job at GameSpot where I was the mobile gaming editor.
Okay.
And I would have been covering this game extensively, but I really have no interest.
You left your interest over there too.
I also had zero interest. And it was just kind of, I was bored the other day. I forget what I was doing. I was like, I could go for like a mobile game, whatever.
You could have played God of War.
Yeah, I could play God of War. I think I was watching Big Brother with Kayla, and I was like, I want like a puzzle game or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Marvel Snap just came out. People are really hyping it up. And also, additional context, I am like kind of tired of Marvel stuff right now. I don't watch the shows. I have missed a couple movies. I
See
used
the
to be
Ant-Man
really
trailer?
into it. The what?
Ant-Man trailer just came
He
out?
said Hitman. I was like, they're making a Hitman movie? Another one? I haven't, no, because I just am kind of burnt out on Marvel stuff.
What about the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special trailer?
Is that a thing?
That is a real thing.
It's got a killer joke in it.
No interest. But Marvel Snap is really good. I think the people are probably going to like compare it to Hearthstone, where you're kind of one-on-one, laying down cards on the field, but you aren't, like Legends of Runeterra, Hearthstone, whatever, card artifact, yeah, whatever card is that still around? Did they close that down?
No, that's been gone for some time.
Yeah, it's been gone for a while. I had high hopes for that.
Yeah.
So it's a card battler, but you're not actually, attacking other people's cards. Think of it almost like Call of Duty Domination, where there are three zones that you are vying for control of, and if your cards are moved or destroyed, you have, it's all about majority rules, right? Whoever has the most power, and your power can be derived by several things. Some cards are just like okay, this costs 2 mana to play and it's got 4 strength. Some cards are like, okay, well, when you lay this down and you flip it over, you know, it's a card game, right? You know, there's special abilities, right? But it all kind of is funneling into the game of there are 3 zones. Each zone has their own property. Like each zone is a location, right, that you're fighting for. And so some zones might be every card you play here has -2 power. Or another one might be after turn 5, shuffle your hand into your deck and redeal. And you know, there's a lot of like conditional things that are happening. And yeah, you're vying for control of these 3 spots in order to win a match. You have to claim 2 of the 3 zones, and it's a ton of fun. It's definitely meant to have you spend money. There are like all sorts of like variants. If you're a big like Marvel fan, there's like all sorts of comic art that is used in card variants, and one of the mechanics is you are like leveling up your cards, not in terms of like their abilities or power, but their cosmetically, like their look. So like the first level that you can upgrade them with, suddenly the art pops out of the card frame. The second upgrade, now it's like everything's 3D and you can like, you know, rotate your phone and see all the art, kind of like a parallax effect.
Do they have an upgrade that like adds like creases and like splits to the cardboard? Like you've just like pocketed the card and we're walking around it for a couple days, or like you loaned it to like a younger brother?
I wouldn't be surprised. There's one where like the card, the font on the card turns holographic, and seemingly I haven't reached the end of like what you can unlock in terms of the levels. I think I've gotten a card up to like level 4 or something, and it still keeps going. So
yeah. Which card? What's your card?
Let me look. I can tell you.
Who's your main hero?
Yeah, while you're looking that up, are you playing against other people, or are you playing like a single player campaign?
No, it is against other people. Every
okay,
match.
so that's like the only mode is like
only mode right now is PvP
online. Okay.
Yeah.
You say right now, are they adding stuff to it?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think they're working on like friend matches and stuff. But
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's safe to assume that they'll be supporting this game for a while. Especially, I mean, it seems like people are into it. Like, you know what I mean? It's. I don't think it's going to be one of those that just goes by the wayside immediately in terms of like mobile games. I think it's caught enough of an early wind of excitement that I think it'll have some legs for a while.
Yeah.
Even if Blake and I aren't playing it ourselves.
I'm gonna play it at the premiere of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever to hide my tears.
Perfect. You know, maybe they'll like put out a digital.
I'm not recording the movie. I'm playing Marvel
Every
Snap.
time I look up, I cry.
But yeah, there's a lot of depth to the game, and you know, there's a lot of cards that I didn't even know were Marvel properties. You know, have you all heard of Swordmaster?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's a Yu-Gi-Oh card, I think.
Have you heard of Strong Guy?
Uh-huh.
Strong guy.
He's in She-Hulk, right?
Devil Dinosaur? Yeah, there's like, you know, Spider-Woman and Spider-Man and the Hulk, but there's also, you know, other lesser known things like.
Do you have Squirrel Girl?
Yeah.
Okay, Squirrel Girl is cool.
Squirrel Girl, if you play Squirrel Girl, I think she's a 1-cost card, 1 mana card, so you can play her from the get-go, and she spawns squirrels on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And I'm actually trying to. I haven't unlocked Squirrel Girl, but I really want her for I have a deck that is all about sacrificing cards and consuming cards to power up other cards.
Oh, you're a monster.
Yeah, I really want Squirrel Girl so I can play her, have her squirrels populate on round 1, and then round 2 put my Carnage card down to eat them all and level up.
So you want to feed Squirrel Girl's squirrels to Carnage?
Yes. I do.
Interesting.
I think you would like this game, Marcus. Knowing your love of card games, specifically character card games, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And I mean, I don't know. Do you play any card games that don't have cool anime art?
No, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is my main one. I guess Solitaire, yeah. Yeah, I want to check it out. I love Marvel. I like TCGs enough that, you know, this is free to play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, it's right there to download. I want to check it out at some point and see what the hubbub is all about. Because, yeah, I didn't like roll my eyes at the announcement, but like just indifferent, right? Like most mobile announcements, I'm kind of like, and I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, mobile games, bleh, not real games. Like I love quite a few mobile games, but it takes something special for a mobile game to really make me raise an eyebrow and go, ooh, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that's become more and more the case as I've gotten older. But yeah, this is one of the ones where just the combination of cards and Marvel and Squirrel Girl specifically it's getting me to, I might have to download it on this episode, much like you're downloading God of War right now. So
Yeah. I can't stress like
and then we can play together.
Eventually, yeah. Because I've got what I think is like a top tier deck, you know, and I want to like fight my friends.
Not to brag.
Not to brag. Yeah, not to brag. I've got an Odin based deck, and Odin like is the last card you can play. Each deck is only 12 cards as well, so it's like you don't have to really like. It's a lot more of like selective process. Like, okay, I really am going to like streamline my deck so like I can cover what I need to cover and adapt to what, you know, what I might go up against. But it's cool. It's a lot of fun. Again, I am a lapsed Marvel fan. I still have no interest in the movies or shows right now, but there's just a ton of depth in this game, and I think, you know, it having cool like comic book art is also a neat thing. I woke up on accident today at 2 a.m. because I was traveling to Japan, of course.
Oh, where'd you go?
Japan, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I
Have
went
you
to
been
Japan.
there?
Once, yeah. This past week.
Oh, I've been there
actually.
twice.
Blake, you've been there too?
Twice.
He's been there too.
Well, surely, Marcus, you've never been there, though, right?
I went with Blake actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kyle, no need to tell us if you've been there. We all know.
We know.
We
know.
know what you did.
You worked at Game
I've been
Informer for
there.
9 years. I'm sure you've been.
Dragon Ball Fighters cover
Wow,
story.
just keep bragging, man. What you know? we get
Marcus
it.
and me.
History of Pokemon
We get
feature.
it. You know, Mr. Magazine content director. Oh, he's been to Japan.
Kyle got to train with Goku.
Sorry, I shouldn't talk about it. I really
No,
shouldn't.
yeah.
It's been a while.
Don't brag about it.
Well, I took Marcus to a gross and dirty mall
We twice.
twice.
I love that. But yeah, I couldn't sleep, and I played Marvel Snap for like 4 hours, and for 3 of those hours I was in bed, and in one of those hours I was on the treadmill being healthy. But yeah, Marvel
Good.
Snap, it's good.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out too. I know we said mobile, but you can play it on PC.
Yeah, it's on Steam.
It's in early access on Steam, so you
Yeah.
can just play it there if you want to, you know, use a mouse. And it's like it's fully out on mobile. I think they said the 1.0 launch for PC is going to be next year.
Weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, Diablo Immortal's kind of doing the same thing too. We're like, it's out on mobile, PC
Yeah,
beta
that's
right
true.
now.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know that. Well, let's get into.
Hold up. I played something else.
What did you play?
Why'd you make that face?
I wanted to know what you played.
Why'd you make that face, though?
Because you're going to say some hipster game.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Kyle. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Well, I think the hipster thing would be to say that this campaign's a 10 out of 10.
I
based on what I'm
literally
seeing
think
online.
I think of the staff at Game Informer, I have the most vanilla AAA focused taste in games. Like, I don't play anything interesting. Anyway, I play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Can I talk about it real quick?
I was going to say that for next week, but yeah, you can talk about it.
It sucks. It's so bad.
No, don't say that.
I'm a
What are you talking about specifically?
Now,
Are we
wait,
talking
real
the
quick,
campaign, or-
because you
The
should
campaign.
You should clarify, right? You've just played the campaign.
Yeah.
right?
Just
Yeah,
the campaign.
okay. Is multiplayer even available
Not yet.
yet?
But we're
Okay,
allowed to
alright.
talk about the campaign. That's totally cool. It's wild, Alex. I mean, I didn't like Modern Warfare 2018, but at least it had moments where it was fun.
Yeah.
But on top of all the normal bull BS in these games, American exceptionalism, a who's who of boogeymen, you know, just ripped straight from the headlines. Who are right-wingers afraid of today? That's your enemies in this game. It doesn't even have the grace to be a fun game. It is possibly the most boring Call of Duty I've ever played.
No.
You remember Sweep House in Modern Warfare 1? Where it's like,
Oh,
wow,
dude.
this is really racist, but kind of an interesting mission design. What if that was an entire game? That's all they got going here. It's weird how they just whiffed on it.
You know what Call of Duty campaign recently was good?
Vanguard.
I didn't play that one, but I heard it was good.
It was good. It was good.
The one before that was also good. What was that?
Oh, I didn't care for that one.
Was that
as
World
much.
War II?
Black
The
Ops
spy
Cold
one.
War.
I really
Black
like
Ops.
the opening.
Oh,
mission.
Black Ops Cold War, Ronald Reagan.
Oh, right. Yeah, I started that one.
The thing about Call of Duty games is the stories are always inherently evil and just propaganda. But the games, they be fun. And this one isn't even fun. It's really surprising how much it whipped. I finally, usually they open with like a big bombastic set piece. Then you'll maybe do a smaller level, and then it's like set piece. It took me like 3 hours to get to the first bombastic level, and then it controlled terribly. You like on the surface, it seems really cool. Like you're driving cars and having to shoot from windows and jump from car to car. It's like a freaking Uncharted level. But the whole thing feels really bad. It's like you're driving the car, but then you have to lean out the window to shoot. So your car slows down. So you constantly have to move back and forth to steer and move your car. And then when you get on top of the car to jump to the next one, the controls are so borked that either the car will shoot out from under you, so you fall to your death, or you'll hit the geometry and the, what's that called? When you contact, it's got the touch. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anyway, you'll fall off the car and die.
When you hit something?
When it's
Collision?
got a collision. The collision's messed up, so that when you try to land on the car, you'll just kind of like slide right off of it. And that comes at the tail end of 2 hours of slowly walking down like hallways. I'm like, It's like this
But
weird.
is there an uncomfortable torture scene?
I have not finished the game. The last I saw was I was about to sit in a chair where it looked like I was about to be tortured. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm not gonna play this game ever again until October 28th when the multiplayer comes out. And I go, sick.
Dude, I can't wait for the multiplayer.
Yes, sir. Propaganda's good when the guns feel good.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to fire up the campaign yet, or I want to play. I'm one of the weird Call of Duty players that usually come only for the campaign. Yeah. And it was actually the 2019 Modern Warfare that got me into hooked on multiplayer for the first time ever. Yeah. Like I adore that game's multiplayer. Yeah, and that was even pre-Warzone. But yeah, no, it has been interesting seeing the reception to that campaign. I'm surprised because I don't think the 2019 campaign was like some masterpiece, but I remember thinking it was pretty good. You know, I've played worse Call of Duty campaigns for sure than that one. So it's almost kind of shocking to see that it's dropped that far.
Yeah.
In quality since then.
It's like finally the gameplay and the story have matched to both be just dog crap.
Yeah, because the story of those games, like I could care less usually. I almost treat Call of Duty like adult G.I. Joe.
Well,
like
I think that's not. I think that's not great either because like those games are doing some pretty evil things in terms of what they're feeding players. You know.
You should see how Marcus plays with G.I. Joes.
I commit war crimes.
And here's where I drop the... Never mind, I'm not going to say that. But
yeah, but
you get it.
No, the 2019 game definitely had some problematic stuff that stood out to even me. But by and large, those games are pretty like... They're like Michael Bay, like blockbuster, check your brain at the door, whatever. Yeah. You know,
I remember one of the Call of Duty campaigns, you jumped into people's minds. That was
that was Black Ops
3,
wasn't
it? Yeah, the one with the what's that celebrity? What's his name?
Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold was in one of them. Remember that?
Remember when he jumped into his mind?
Yeah. There was also the one where you like became a robot, right?
I believe that was also Black Ops 3.
Okay.
Though you did control a robot in Infinite Warfare, the one with Jon Snow as the villain. You had a robot teammate.
I do want to say we have a review going up after the multiplayer goes live from Reed McCarter, which I'm really excited about. Founder of Bullet Points Monthly, writer for AV Club, Everywhere, Killscreen. So I'm really interested in. He's going to be able to tackle that campaign from a place way smarter than I, who basically is just going to say, it stinks like poo-poo. Keep an eye out for that.
Like 10 out of 10.
Yeah, keep an eye out for that review. I cannot wait to read it myself. Read it! Read McCarter. Read.
I'm actually weirdly excited to play the campaign because I just want to see what everyone's talking about.
Dude, I was shocked.
I need to see for myself what's wrong with it.
I was shocked. Like, I felt I was like kind of excited going into it because I was like, okay, I'm going to oscillate between being extremely angry and then having the time of my freaking life when I'm actually playing the game, and then crap the bed. Oh well, what can you do?
We can go to listener emails and close the show out. If you want to be part of the show, of course, you can send us an email, podcast@gameinformer.com. or join the Game Informer Discord by subscribing to us one time on Twitch, linking your account and joining. But yeah, this is the part of the show that you influence what we talk about. We've got 4 questions this week. Rook asks, what was your first experience with Silent Hill, and which is your favorite?
I have a story.
Yeah.
My dad and me went to EB Games, which might be my parent company now. I'm not sure. And he bought this PlayStation 1 game called Silent Hill because I had a PS2, and he was like, it's scary, you can't play this. And I was like, oh, great, crazy, all right. And he brought it home, and I don't know if my dad ever played it, but I remember my mom getting home later, and she was like, what's up, family? As moms say. My dad was like,
This story doesn't sound made up so far. This is going well.
Hold up. My dad was like, yo, I bought this game called Silent Hill. It's real scary. And my mom was like, all right, bet. And she went downstairs. I remember she played it for like an hour, and she came upstairs, and she was like petrified. She was like, my dad was like, is it scary? And she was like, not good. Okay, no, I'm not touching it. Like, she treated it like it was evil. It was very funny.
She called a priest to bless the game.
That was my first experience with Silent Hill.
It was walking down the alleyway when the camera goes overhead and it starts being all funky.
Yeah, and then years later,
Weird.
they bought me Silent Hill 3, and I was too scared to ever play it, but it came with the CD of the soundtrack, and I used to listen to it all the time to and from school in my dad's car.
Soundtrack is great.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I also remember I had a PlayStation Underground DVD that had the Silent Hill 3 trailer on it, and I would watch it repeatedly. All of this is to say, I've never played a Silent Hill game.
Really?
Yeah. I love...
So you should play 3. It'll be like, oh, I recognize all this music.
I really like
wow.
Silent Hill conceptually, but I've never played them.
Aesthetically,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I think they're cool for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I've dabbled in a lot. Silent Hill 2 is my far and away my favorite, and my initial experience with it, which was funny, was like, friend had a PS2. He was like the first friend that had a PS2, and we played like Onimusha and like the
Hell
Bouncer and a bunch of like Tony Hawk, and it was just like a raucous time. It was funny, right? We were like having a good old time playing Tony Hawk 3. Or maybe it was 4 at the time. I guess 4 probably came out around Silent Hill 2 time. But like, and then it was like Silent Hill 2 was also like on that pile. And we booted it up kind of going into it like, oh yeah, this is just be another like, violence. It'll be like Onimusha. We'll fight monsters and stuff. And it was like, it took us, and we were kind of cracking jokes early on, but it took, I don't know, like maybe an hour where we were all just like lights off, rapt attention, like really just on the edge of our seats of just like, what is this place? Are we in hell? Like it was like, it really got under our skin very quickly. And I played it a bunch that way. And then it was actually a little bit later that I finally got my own copy and like sat down and played through it. And it's still a very memorable experience. I mean, there's scenes in that game, not even like cutscenes, but like player directed moments of like, you are traveling deeper and deeper underground, and then you have to like you find a graveyard underground, and you have to step into a grave to continue to keep going underground, and it's just like so unsettling and creepy, and it's so great. It's such a good game.
Mine was PT. Like I said, I didn't grow up playing Silent Hill. I just looked at it from afar and said, that looks cool. But what's interesting about that is that I would have to imagine that there's a substantial audience of gamers that PT is their introduction to that series because of how it became such a phenomenon. And that's going to be the people going into these new Silent Hills like, oh, I played PT. Maybe these are as scary as that. But yeah, I adored PT. It's one of my favorite horror games ever, like maybe even top 3. It was the first horror game that ever made me scream out loud. I'd never done that before. Even stuff that like terrified me, I'm pretty good at keeping it in, or it just never elicited that reaction. But PT got me to do it twice, and I was playing a game like in broad daylight. So the Silent Hill series, I guess, broke the seal for me on that. So yeah, I'm still, to this day, I'm still not completely over the fact that we're never going to get Silent Hills. I really want to know what that would have turned out to be.
I had to play PT for like an hour during Extra Life one year as an incentive, and it was the worst.
You want to do it this year?
I would. Yeah, I would. I would need guidance, but
Someone got it running on PS5, I think.
Ooh.
Probably-
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah.
I saw that article going around.
Yeah, Blake, you said you have a PS4 that has PT on it, don't you?
Yeah, it's in my parents' living room. It's 14
Kentucky.
hours away from
Does your
me.
mom know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's your
I
mom.
could. I mean, like, if we really,
Don't turn it on, Mom.
if we really needed it, I could have them ship it up. It wouldn't be a problem. Just let me know.
Tell her she has to beat it first, though. Tell your mom she has to beat it.
My
and
mom
then ship it.
struggles to find Netflix on that PS4. I'm not telling her to open any video game. Their house might burn down.
She's gonna accidentally delete PT and then you're
Oh
just-
God.
I mean, that'd be fine. Like, I'm never gonna play it again. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Oh,
like
I'll take your PS4 then.
no,
take it
that's
off your
my
hands.
mom's PS4, Marcus. Were you not listening to the story? I gave it to her. Come on.
I mean, she ain't using it either. Probably.
I do have my dad's Silent Hill 1 right there. The one that scared my mom so bad she never recovered. It's right there.
You know, I have Silent Hill 1 on my PS3 as a PS1 classic. Like, it's installed. I could technically play it. I would love to stream it, but streaming from a PS3 is a gigantic
It's a nightmare.
pain. Yeah.
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 Next question comes from Logan. Logan asks, "Give me your Marvel Snap decks. I'm personally running a Destruction and Move deck mainly. P.S. Kyle, I love you." Logan, I've been experimenting with a Destruction and Move deck. You start getting a lot of those cards once you start completing a lot of challenges. My current deck is a on reveal deck based on Odin. So the whole premise for people who don't know what that means is when you play an on reveal card, it flips over and has a special effect. And Odin, when you play him, can re-trigger. Normally those are once per game, like once per card. Odin, if you lay him down next to those cards, he can have them all re-trigger, and so you can get these like really powerful chain reactions. But Logan, the cards I've got on here, from top to bottom, I mean it's only 12, so I can just tell you what I'm rocking. Odin, Spider-Woman, White Tiger, Jessica Jones, Hulkbuster. I'm experimenting with Morph, who's he has no damage himself, but you play him down.
Oh my God, Morph's in the game?
Yeah, you play him on the field, and he transforms into a random card from your enemy's hand.
Wow.
Ironheart's in the game. She's really great. Scarlet Witch, Star-Lord, Yondu, Vatu, the Watcher, and Ant-Man. It's currently in my deck. But
Wait,
yeah.
you need Uatu?
I don't know. The text is weird. The font's weird.
Oh, okay.
It's probably Uatu.
Uatu.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my deck. I am excited for when we can challenge friends, because I think that'd be a very fun stream.
P.S. Kyle, I love you. So my favorite kind of funny show.
That's good. That's very good.
It's really good.
It's a Mama Luigi asks.
Luigi?
Yeah, that's my favorite way to say Luigi. I always say Luigi, just to
Really?
a little,
Luigi's...
just to be silly. Yeah, Luigi.
Oh, okay. I thought that's just a problem you had.
No, I just
Luigi's
Mario
Mansion.
and Luigi. I don't know. I've always thought it was funny.
Mario and Luigi.
Yeah. It's a Mama Luigi asks, how does the crafting/inventory system in Ragnarok compare to the first? I liked the game overall, but I found the entire gear system to be tedious and overwrought. I know they're not scrapping the whole mechanic, but hopefully it could be streamlined to have fewer but more meaningful upgrades.
Early in the game, it seems basically comparable. I don't think I've noticed any significant changes. That could change later, but at least initially in those first couple hours, it seems like for better or worse, basically the same system.
Yeah,
as the
those
first
menus are a nightmare. I hate opening them.
Yeah, they're not. When I first opened it, I was like, oh, this has not been streamlined, or if it is, it's
Yeah.
not immediately evident.
Oh, no.
It seems more or less the same.
Okay. Well, that's a simple answer. Last question comes from our podcast editor, Matt Storm. They ask, I have yet to play Marvel Snap yet, but it's on my radar as a TCG nerd. How does this differ from other games in its similar genre? What makes it special? Like I said, the 3-zone, you're not fighting other cards. You're fighting... You're not even fighting. You're like you're building up the best combination of cards in a zone to get the most points. You're not dismantling other people's cards in most cases. You're not attacking, the champion hero. You're just like doing your own thing, but you're doing it head to head, almost like you would in like a traditional like multiplayer Tetris or something. Like you're each doing your own thing. Who can do it better, and that's who wins. So I think that's a pretty big difference compared to other card battlers.
Wait, Matt's a TCG nerd.
I guess so.
Does that mean that they're into Yu-Gi-Oh? Is that like, should Matt and I be thrown down in Master Duel?
I don't think that they're into Yu-Gi-Oh, but maybe it's like a secret that they want to keep secret.
Yeah, Matt, let me know. This might be huge for us, for our relationship.
That's awesome. Thank you for the question, Matt, and thank you for editing the show. It really does help me out. We pay Matt, but you know it is a huge help. And yeah, it's been great having them on as a freelance editor for us. I highly recommend them if you are looking for podcast editing needs. But yeah, if you enjoyed the show this week, be sure to review us on Apple Podcasts. We had one new review, and it was a weird review. It said that we were running gun ads on our website, which isn't something we were running. I think it was their Google ads, which I believe are based on search history and cookies.
Gun ads?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you told on yourself with that one, listener.
Yeah, you know, this is a good information to internalize and reflect on the podcast,
listen,
so we can improve
Google ads.
the
We
quality
don't
of the
control
show.
that. That is entirely Google and sometimes your search history.
You control that.
When you guys weren't looking, I uploaded a bunch of ad images of my biceps.
Oh.
And yeah, so.
See, I thought it was going to be the Gears of War guns, and I would have been like, oh, those are good guns. Ones with chainsaws on them. And the torque bow, which is like one of the greatest weapons of all time in a video game. But anyways.
My favorite gun.
I'm a really big
It
fan
explodes,
of
okay?
the Hammer of Dawn. Hell of a gun.
Oh my god, the Hammer of Dawn. I love that.
Put that in my pocket.
Gears of War is so sick.
It is.
I love Gears of War. I just replayed the first one a month or two ago. It's awesome.
I would totally do a super replay of those games with you.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
And we could do a co-op too. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's a lot of game.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay, and Cliff Bleszinski just put out a book. It's on its way to my mailbox.
It's true.
I don't know if it's out.
Is it out,
Simon
actually?
and Schuster. My
Yeah.
boys,
Blake
Simon and
Okay. I wanna
Schuster,
check that
hooked
out.
me up.
Yeah. Well, Blake wrote the foreword of the book, so.
I wish that if Cliff Bleszinski was like, "Hey, Blake, you got me," I'd be like, "Anything for you, boss key. Got you."
Heard you were really big into Jazz Jackrabbit.
Dude, huge.
Yeah.
That was it.
Dude,
huge. I'm there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be the show this week. Again, if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, review us on Apple Podcasts, and tune in next week for another episode. Welcome back, Kyle.
Thank you.
Blake, Marcus, thanks for joining me again. And we will see everybody next week. Bye.